Ja, herzlich willkommen zum Profifoto Sommer Podcast. Pünktlich zur Profifoto-Ausgabe Juli-August 2013 mit allem zur neuen Leica X Vario rund um Adobe Photoshop Cloud und der Frage, was ist vom neuen Abo-Modell zu halten. Wir haben ein Extra zum Thema Rent Equipment und der Titel stammt vom Hamburger Fotografen Simon Puschmann. Spannende Bilder unter dem Titel Naked in the Kitchen. Außerdem im Heft ein Klassiker zu Bill Perlmutter. Bill Perlmutter, amerikanischer Fotograf der Nachkriegszeit. Eine Neuentdeckung der Galeristin Helane von Corries in Hamburg. Wir zeigen die Bilder und dazu ein Interview der Galeristin im NDR in der Sendung 90,3.
Die 50er Jahre, der Zweite Weltkrieg ist vorbei. Auch wenn die Spuren noch deutlich erkennbar sind, haben die Menschen wieder zu einem Alltag gefunden. Auf einem Foto winken Kinder begeistert einem amerikanischen Panzer hinterher. Ein anderes zeigt einen Familienvater. Stolz posiert er mit seinen Kindern vor einer Häuserwand mit neu angebrachter Zigarettenreklame. Die Galeristin Helane von Corries haben diese Bilder von Bill Perlmutter sofort fasziniert.
Es ist ein sehr liebevoller Blick auf die Menschen. Es ist sehr genau beobachtet. Und das von einem damals noch sehr jungen Mann, der das erste Mal überhaupt mit Europa konfrontiert wurde.
Bill Perlmutter ist 22, als er nach Deutschland kommt. Nach einer Fotografenausbildung tritt der gebürtige New Yorker in die amerikanische Armee ein und weiß selbst nicht genau, was ihn in Europa erwartet.
Er war in Norddeutschland, weil Churchill hier einen Auftritt hatte und er war ja als Fotograf der US Army dazu verpflichtet, für verschiedenste Divisionsmagazine das Material zu liefern. Das heißt, er hat wie ein Pressefotograf in dem Fall gearbeitet.
Aber auch in seiner Freizeit hat er die Kamera immer dabei und diese Bilder zeigt die Ausstellung. Bill Perlmutter, den vor allem die Menschen interessieren und der fast beiläufig die Stimmungen der damaligen Zeit einfängt.
Jetzt kommt das Wirtschaftswunder. Der deutsche Bauch erholt sich auch und ist schon sehr viel runder.
Ein gut genährter Mann mit pompöser Sonnenbrille steht im Fokus eines Bildes, das Perlmutter bei einem Fußballspiel fotografierte.
Und natürlich hatte Fußball einen ganz starken Bezug für Deutschland und hat es ja immer noch. Aber natürlich auch Mitte der 50er Jahre hat das ganz viel mit dem Wirtschaftswunder zu tun, hat damit wieder zu tun mit einem neu erwachten Bewusstsein, kann man noch gar nicht sagen. Aber vielleicht auch dieses Wir sind wieder wer, auch wenn dieses Wer noch sehr brüchig ist.
Und das zeigt sich auch daran, dass Perlmutter selbst Mitte der 50er Jahre noch ein Mann mit Hitlerbärtchen vor die Kamera läuft. Selbstbewusst posiert er auf offener Straße in strammer Haltung mit seinem Schäferhund.
Das ist ein sehr bitteres Foto. Ich habe auch überlegt, ob ich es mit in die Ausstellung nehme und ich habe mich dazu entschlossen, weil ich finde, auch das gehört zu dem Bild von Deutschland, was jemand 1956 immer noch vorfindet, dass jemand wirklich, er hat es ja auch Hitler-Lookalike genannt, aussieht wie eine Hitler-Persiflage, aber es sehr ernst meint, sich auch nicht irgendwie lächerlich vorkommt und das Ganze auch noch mit Stolz und Freude präsentiert. Aber auch das gehört zu unserer Geschichte.
Seinen ersten Urlaub während seines Deutschlanddienstes macht der Armeefotograf Bill Perlmutter in Paris, in der Stadt, von der er schon so viel gehört hat.
Ja, verständlich. Also junger Mann aus New York, keine Ahnung von Europa, geht er nach Paris, weil natürlich Paris mit den Mythen und der hübschen Französin und der Liebe und dass er das als erstes besucht hat, verstehe ich vollkommen.
Und auch hier entstehen tolle Bilder. Ein altes Ehepaar, das umringt von Tauben im Park sitzt. Ein Postkartenverkäufer unterm Eiffelturm. Alles Originale, echte Typen mit Charakter. Und das macht diese Ausstellung so sehenswert. Perlmutters Bilder sind nicht allein spannende Zeitzeugnisse, sondern auch schlicht schön anzusehen.
Ja, spannende Bilder aus dem Nachkriegsdeutschland. Wie gesagt, noch zu sehen bis Mitte August in der Hamburger Galerie Helane von Corries in der Stresemannstraße. Unser nächster Beitrag hat viel mehr praktischen Bezug. Es geht um den Umgang mit Licht beim Thema Autofotografie. Wir haben ein Tutorial mit dem Fotografen Tim Wallace mit freundlicher Genehmigung von Profifoto.
Working as a car photographer, I pretty much shoot all over the world, and I shoot in the prestige end of the market. When you make a purchase of something like an Aston Martin or a Mustang GT, it's an emotional decision. So basically the photography that is called upon for that sort of work, it has to be emotional, and lighting is key for me to achieve this sort of thing. When you're lighting a car, it's always best to start very simple, don't over-engineer it, and take your lights up gradually. These creases give you the ability to hide a light such as a strip light so that you get maybe a reflection, but it'd be a very fine line reflection, if anything. The first light, in essence, is going to be one of the main lights. That's going to light the whole side of the car. And we're going to look at using this, which is a Profifoto 1x6 strip light. This strip light gives us essentially quite a soft light. Strip lights, in their essence, it's a much softer light. It's a more natural light. It's kinder to the actual car. If we bring the light too far over to where we are, yeah, we're going to throw light on this car, but this light is going to be very soft and it's going to be very flat, to be honest. So it's always about thinking about the angles. In essence, a good starting point is if you think at 90 degrees to where you are. That's going to give you, in essence, the punchiest, hardest, most controllable light. We've got now a bit of a balance between this side of the car and the ambient light over there. What I've done here is this light, you'll also notice it's particularly low. It's a lot lower than the high there. We've got a different set of problems here. If we take this high, then effectively what we're going to do is start lighting the bonnet. If we light the bonnet, we're not going to get a huge amount of light down here. We want light on the car, but what we don't want is a big softbox reflection across here. So I pretty much angled that where I think it needs to be. We're pretty much okay. We're getting that light into that shot there, as you can see. We're very low, we've got the reflector on, we've got this pullback so it's fairly focused. One of the great things with these is that we can focus the light by changing the depth of this reflector. We can pull it forward, and what that will do will actually focus the light. We can pull it back and it will widen it. So that's what I'm doing here, giving it a fairly focused light. Okay, we've got the front of the car covered. Next step, crucially, we just put the three lights together. And we'll now look at what all three lights combined looks like. Because of this skylight here, we've got some reflections on the bonnet. Having that reflection onto the windscreen, having that reflection on the bonnet, it brings that car into this location. We're happy with the car. We're now going to start thinking about lighting the background a little bit. We don't want to push a huge amount of light into this background, so we're just going to actually use one light. And what we're going to do is use, again, a simple reflector, but instead of being pulled forward, this reflector is pulled all the way back on the head. Instead of zooming the light, it's giving us a wide angle of light, and that's what we want. We've lit across that brick wall at the back. We've picked up some highlights. We've got some of the rafters at the top, at the back. I don't really want to go any further than that, to be quite honest with you, because if I do, what we're going to do is we're going to start lighting the room. We've lit the car, we're then going to light the room. We're going to lose the whole ambience, we're going to lose the mood. So the last stage now is to put all the lights together and do the final shot. As you can see from that, we've got a quite nice balance. The car's quite evenly lit, but we haven't lost the shape of this wheel arch. We've got some floor lit, and we've separated the car from the background. So if you look at the finished shoot overall, basically we have very little post-production to do. The car's illuminated, it's got good tone, good texture, good contrast. Photography is about light and it's about emotion.
Ja, weniger der Umgang mit Licht ist bedeutend für die Fotografie von Paul Hansen, der Schwede, Gewinner des WordPress-Fotos des Jahres 2013, war mit seinem Siegerbild in die öffentliche Diskussion geraten zu der Frage, wie viel Manipulation am Bild ist im Fotojournalismus erlaubt und ist die Veränderung von Kontrast, von Farbigkeit schon eine Manipulation? Wir haben zu dieser Frage heute Statements von Paul Hansen persönlich mit freundlicher Genehmigung der Stiftung World Press Photo.
I remember this alleyway very vividly because it was one of the spots that was very much a refugee camp. It was very narrow and it was very crowded and dusty. And when they walked in, the dust flew up and they were screaming. And then I ran ahead of the procession to try to get the shape of the procession. It took more the form of a procession than before. It was more a mass of people in the open square. And then I walked backwards, and then the light hits the wall and it hits some shutters on the windows that's open. So it was just a few meters that the light and everything came together, but I had no idea when I was taking the picture. I could just hear myself. It's very often the case when I try to analyze moments myself. I don't think this could be a good picture. I hear the camera clicking. I'm clicking a lot now. Why am I clicking a lot? This could be a good picture. So the reaction comes before I think about it. So it happens a lot. That day started actually the night before in one sense. Because we were sitting in a guest house, you're very close to the Shifa hospital, which is the main hospital in Gaza City. And with a friend of mine, his name is Harald Henden, he works for a Norwegian paper. And his friend was a doctor, Mats Gilbert, who worked a lot as a volunteer in this hospital during the cast-lead operation in 2008 and 2009. The story he was telling us about the woman he had in his ward and several of her injured children after a rocket attack. That totally destroyed their house and killed 2 young children and the woman's husband. And she was sedated because she had a bad head injury. And the next morning we went to Jabalia, to the local hospital in this refugee camp north of Gaza City. And there was a lot of people that were in the morgue, a lot of dead people. And families and friends came and got their dead ones. And part of that was a family with the 2 dead children and the father. So we decided to do that story, me and Eric Olsson, the reporter at my paper. So we followed that, and they were walking and walking and walking. And it's always the same. I have, in my experience, the people take their beloved ones and they take them to the house for a private ceremony with the women, because they're not a part of this. And then they go to the mosque, and then they go to the burial ground. So we followed them. We walked for a long time, and I kept thinking, when do they arrive to the house? Then I realized it must be this family that the doctor, Mats Gilbert, talked about the night before. Because they don't have a house to go to. There's no house. So I talked to my interpreter, Mohammed Omer, and he confirmed it. It was the Hijazi family, this family in this picture. It's a very dynamic region. And I really love to go down and meet the people in this area. Because on all sides, there's not only, people sometimes say it's both sides. I don't say it's 2 sides, it's many different sides. And those sides shift, and they can shift from one week to another also. And over the years, it's always a common denominator is that the innocent die. I mean, like in any modern conflict, 80% or 90% of the victims are non-combatants. Like in this particular picture I took, I mean, there's 2 young boys and their father watching a Champions League game on football, and they're killed. It's so totally unnecessary. I mean, the powers players on all layers and all levels and all sides in this region, also globally, should feel ashamed when they see pictures like this, I think. Why did these children have to die? As a photographer, I mean, going to these types of situations, I'm there, I sometimes get asked the question, how do you deal with it? This thing is the last thing you do. There's so many more things that happens before you even take a picture. And also in saying that, the pictures that you don't take are also very important. That you might sit next to the person, you talk to them, you explain at length why you're there. And first and foremost, you know yourself why you are in this situation. And first and foremost, I'm there as a human being. I mean, if I could do anything to help, I would do that first. These people and their suffering, or whatever you're trying to depict, they're not there for your sake. They're not there to glorify your byline. And I also think if they feel that you are there from genuine interest, and you have respect for their reality, and more or less respect for the context they're living in, they can feel that. They can see that in you, and they can see how you approach their situation, and then you might get a contact. And then that will develop into doing this, getting a good picture or something like that. I was once criticized by an American photographer at a large paper, and she looked at my pictures and said, you can't get too close to your subjects. And I said, I'm sorry, I have to differ. I think you have to get very close to your subjects. Otherwise, why are you there? I mean, that particular day when the Hijazi friends and family buried their three dead, I cried. I mean, I always cry. If I'm not moved, why am I there? When I first started in photojournalism, I was very young. I wanted to do I remember having a coffee meeting with my colleagues in Gothenburg on that paper. They were whining about the daily assignments. That's what we do. That's the everyday topic of the day. Because photographers, we are big whiners about everything because we feel like we are put upon, and which is in one part true, but also I think the whining has a self-reproducing effect. That's how we communicate with each other. So my colleagues were whining about something, this and that, or the assignments was not good enough. And I remember saying, well, can't we just be grateful that we have the job we have and we get to do what we love to do? And I was 19 or 20, I think. And they looked upon me, and then they just continued the conversation, as I have said nothing. I felt so stupid. But I still have that feeling inside of me. I'm very grateful to do what I do.
Meine Meinung zu dem Thema ist ganz klar. Früher gab es Schwarz-Weiß-Fotografie, auch da gab es natürlich Veränderungen in der Wahrnehmung, Diskrepanzen zur Realität, die ja farbig ist. Schwarz-Weiß-Bilder reduzieren das. Heute werden RAW-Daten entwickelt. Solange Pixel im Bild nicht verschoben werden, ist es meiner Meinung nach keine Manipulation. Und Paul Hansen hat meiner Meinung nach selbstverständlich den Titel WordPress-Foto des Jahres verdient. Schreiben Sie uns gerne dazu Ihre Meinung. Wir freuen uns auf Leserbriefe. Die nächste Ausgabe von Profifoto erscheint Ende August. Das Septemberheft für Sie dann am Kiosk oder im Briefkasten. Und wir melden uns nach dem Sommer zurück mit unserem nächsten Podcast. Bis dahin, vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und tschüss.